Hello, Internet. It is I, Malik Aaron, and welcome back to Box Office Predictions. Today we're going to be talking about Equalizer 3. So, as usual, we're going to be going over the pros and cons, so let's get to it. Pros. This is the third Equalizer movie. These movies started in 2014, almost a decade ago, which is really weird to think about. Yeah, all these movies star Denzel Washington, and basically in these movies, Denzel gets to be an old badass. Very much like what Liam Neeson was in Taken, what Keanu Reeves is in John Wick. Very much the same vibe. So, when the first Equalizer came out, it was received pretty well, I think. Definitely more audiences than critics, but I think the overall reception was alright. And its box office was pretty good. Opened with 34 million, which is quite all right for September standards. Made just over 100 million domestic, made like 192 million worldwide on a budget of 55 million. I say that's quite good. And one would think this would be it because Denzel, he doesn't do franchises. Like, he was never involved in any big franchise. Like, every movie he's made up to this point was a one and done. Like, that was it. But I guess with Equalizer, something changed. Because I guess Denzel was like, you know what? I'm going to be in a franchise. My own franchise. And no one else's. Because 4 years later, we have Equalizer 2, and people were just like, okay. Sure, I guess. It was a very unexpected sequel, but we got it. So yeah, Equalizer 2 came out in 2018, summer 2018, which is quite a leap from September. Um, yeah. And when it was coming out, most people didn't have high expectations for it because like the first Equalizer, like it was received well enough, but it didn't become like this big cult classic or anything. Like say a John Wick, where that movie did all right in theaters, but then once it hit the home market, more people discover it and grew this big following, and that following helped, it fueled the second movie, which then fueled the third movie, which then fueled the fourth movie. That never really happened with Equalizer. People just saw the first movie and were like, that was pretty good, and then just forgot about it. So yeah, no one had high hopes for the sequel. But to everyone's surprise, the sequel actually did quite well for itself. It opened higher than the first movie, which is something no one thought would happen. In fact, no one even thought it would be number one that weekend. People thought it was going to be Mamma Mia 2, another sequel that where its existence is very questionable. Most people thought that would be the winner, but it wasn't. It was Equalizer 2 for that weekend only. Because obviously Mamma Mia 2 made way more in the grand scheme of things, but that doesn't matter. But Equalizer 2 opened really well. It made just slightly above the first movie in terms of like, domestically. Worldwide, it was about the same. And one would think that would be it. But no, I guess they're like, no, we have to have a third movie. This has to have a trilogy because it just has to. And here we are with Equalizer 3. So yeah, so the first two movies were hits. They made money. So obviously that's good for the third movie. So yeah, I'm gonna label the success of the first two Equalizer movies. Those are pros. Opposite. Like it's a pro. It's a pro. So that's pro number one. Pro number two, Denzel Washington himself. This man is one of the few to sell movie tickets just with his name. Not too many people can do that nowadays. Like that, the amount of people who can do that is very limited. But Denzel's one of the few who can still do it. Like his track record is quite good. I mean, he has some duds in here, but he has quite a few notable movies in here. I mean, Malcolm X is the first one I immediately recognize. Was that? I guess they're Pelican. Is that Pelican Brief? I think that's what it's called. That apparently did good. Philadelphia did well, though he co-starred with Tom Hanks. I don't know about the rest of these. I think most of these are probably mid-level hits. I know. Remember the Titans? That was one of his biggest hits. That was a big hit. Training Day, I know that's a classic for a lot of people. You know, with his famous line like "King Kong ain't got shit on me." That line. There's John Q. Man on Fire. I know that's an audience favorite for sure. Inside Man, American Gangster is still his biggest hit domestically. I think worldwide too. Yeah, definitely worldwide. Um, Then you got Book of Eli did all right for January standards. Safe House did really well. Flight did well. Two Guns did okay, but it could have done better. Then you got Equalizer, which did well. Magnificent Seven could have done a lot better. So that was a bit of a disappointment. What else? We have Fences did quite well. Equalizer 2 did well. And yeah, so overall, his track record is quite good. Again, he has some duds, like little things. I'm giving that a pass because that had to deal with COVID, like bad COVID, and then the HBO Max experiment, which basically killed it. So I'm gonna give that a pass. He has some other duds here, like Roman J. Israel. That's one. Unstoppable did fine, but the problem is his budget was too high. And then Taking Up Pelham 1, 2, 3, that didn't do that great. And Deja Vu did fine. Like Out of Time didn't do fine, but still, his track record is better than most. And I know some people's track records are technically better, but they've been in less movies, so it's not exactly apples to apples. But yeah, Denzel Washington, he is a draw. He's literally the only reason why people even watch these movies, pretty much. So I'd say his presence is definitely a good thing. So that's pro number 2, Denzel Washington. Pro number 3 is the fact that competition is very light for this movie. I mean, everything that's out is either old or DOA. And when it comes to future competition, like the next 2 weeks are very light, but I guess this movie won't face any real serious direct competition until Expendables comes out in like 3 weeks. So this movie has time to play out. And it also helps that this movie is being like positioned as like the movie of the weekend. Like this is technically the last summer movie. I know what you're thinking. Malik, how is this the last summer movie? It's September. Look, the way Hollywood summer works is that it's the first weekend of May, and it goes all the way through Labor Day weekend. And this Labor Day weekend happens to be in September. That's the rules. I didn't make them. And that's that. So, yeah, this movie, like Sony has done an all right job, position this movie as a kind of big deal, even with all the strikes. So, yeah, so lack of competition or serious competition, and the fact that this movie is being positioned like really good as like the big movie of the weekend, I'd say those are pros. So that's pro number 3 and 4, I guess. Pro number 5 is the fact it's opening on Labor Day weekend, which historically isn't a great weekend. It's very dry because Hollywood tends to give up around this time. They just like, all right, May, June, July, all these heavy hitters, and like maybe the first week of August, and then after that, they give up. They throw their hands in the air, just like, all right, time to take a break. We'll bring the blockbusters back in November, and maybe throw in one or two in the fall. But yeah, they pretty much just give up at this time. But you know what, Shang-Chi 2 years ago opening with 75 million for Labor Day weekend, like that shows you that if you actually try and if you actually care, you can make that weekend better. You can make it more eventful. And sure, Shang-Chi didn't do great in the grand scheme of things, but still, the opening weekend for Shang-Chi shows that you can make some real money for Labor Day. So, yeah, and this has to be like second for Labor Day movies. I mean, like compared to some others, I have to like look up Shang-Chi. All right, Shang-Chi, go to that. All right, summary. Labor Day, where are you? Here you are. So all this is 3 day. I'm not counting Tenet because that had a weird release. But as you can see, things are very bleak. Like we only had ignoring Tenet before Shang-Chi, you only had one movie open with like 20 million plus, and that's Halloween 2007, the Rob Zombie Halloween, 26 million. So yeah, but Shang-Chi showed that it's possible to do way better than that. So yeah. Yeah, so the holiday weekend will also help it be less front loaded. So labeling the holiday weekend as a pro. Another pro are the reviews for this movie, which are way better than I ever anticipated. I really thought it would hit like the 40s or something. That has a 75% critic score, 93% audience score, and a cinema score of an A, which doesn't surprise me at all. So, yeah, all that's positive, nothing negative to say. Good critic score, audience score, cinema score, all good. So, that's another pro. Another pro is its Thursday night numbers, 3.8 million, which are way better than what I thought it would hit. I mean, for comparison's sake, Equalizer 2, which came out in summer, so like summer where, people were more free to go to the movies at a point in summer, people were more free to go to the movies. That had a Thursday preview of 3.1 million. So the fact that Equalizer 3 coming out in September has a way better preview number of Equalizer 2, which came out in July, I think that's a good thing. I think that's a good sign. And how this number is actually better than what can I compare this to? I guess Blue Beetle. Let's look at that sad sack. Blue Beetle and Meg 2. Okay. So Blue Beetle came out a few weeks ago. That had a Thursday preview of 3.3, over 25 million, and Meg 2 had a Thursday preview of what was it? 3.2. Album of 30 million. So again, solid sign. And it helps that Equalizer 3 is less expensive than both those movies. So yeah. Thursday preview is very solid. So I'm labeling that as a pro. And when it comes to cons, I don't know. I guess the 5 year gap between Equalizer 2 and 3, that can be a bit of a red flag because daily sequels should come out like 2 to 3 years after their predecessors. Maybe 4, but 4 is a stretch. After that, you're just like, what's the point? And the thing is, like, this isn't like, say, a Across the Spider-Verse thing. Where the thing is, Across the Spider-Verse had a predecessor that was beloved by pretty much anyone who watched it, and that grew a huge following, and that following, really fueled the sequel. That never really happened with Equalizer 2. People didn't love that movie. In fact, I just looked at its reviews because I wasn't sure how it reviewed, and it was pretty lackluster. So obviously that wasn't gonna help Equalizer 3. So yeah, like part of me feels like the 5 year gap is a little worrying because 5 years might be is a little too long for a sequels, but that's kind of a minor con at this point. I guess another con is that this movie's obviously gonna appeal to more to an older audience. And that's kind of a problem because recently movies have like this blockbuster esque movies that have tried to appeal to an older demographic. They haven't been doing too hot. Like Indiana Jones and Dial of Destiny and Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1, both flops. Neither did well. So, yeah, that's not great. Although Equalizer 3's case, it costs like a fraction to produce. So compared to those two movies, so it's in the bar for success is a lot lower for this than Indy and Mission Possible, but still something to note. So that's kind of another minor con. And I think that's really it. So opening weekend, I have to do like 3 day and 4 day. I forgot to do 4 day for bottoms, but I don't think it matters. But it won't matter here. So 3-day, I think it'll hit the 30s, 30 to 35, probably around maybe the same amount as 1 and 2 in the same range. 4-day, probably between 35 and 40. And its total, I don't know how good its legs are going to be. I don't know. I don't see this hitting 100 million. Maybe 90 if it's lucky. Probably 90, I would say. 80 to 90. I'm a bit of a range. 80 to 90 million domestically. And that'll be it. And that's pretty much it for the weekend. I mean, it wasn't like a massive weekend, but I mean, compare this to last year. Last year was so damn pitiful. It was embarrassing. At least this year you have something. Something that'll make some money. So, yeah. So, there's that. And that's it for the weekend. So, next weekend, 2 movies. 2 movies that have sequels, and I don't understand why they exist. Well, one of them, I do know why it exists, but still, I'm like, why are you here? We have My Big Fat Greek Wedding 3 and The Nun 2. So, and I might as well go over the rest of September. It won't take very long. Then after that, there's Haunting in Venice. Then after that, Expendables. And then after that, Creator, Paw Patrol, Mighty Movie, and Saw X. So, yeah, that's what September looks like. So, yeah. So, that's it. That's all. Make sure to subscribe, like this video, leave a comment, turn notifications, share the whole drill. Want to check out more videos like this? I got playlists on the homepage, all previous prediction videos I made this year. You want to watch any of those, or any of the ones I've done the past few years, you can go right ahead. There's also the canceled series where I go over all the movies that were supposed to come out but didn't. Equalizer 3, I covered it one time. And that was episode 117, where I talked about it alongside Madam Web and Across the Spider-Verse. Well, the title's Part 1, Part 2. That was before they got the name changes. And yeah, so I talked about alongside those movies. So you want to watch that episode, go right ahead. You want to watch the rest of the other 204 episodes I've made, all 204 episodes I made. You want to binge them all from beginning to now. I highly encourage you to do that, so go do it. There's also recap videos, box office recaps, where I recap box office results for the month. August recap will come out next week. Then September recap will come out around the first week after the first week of October, before the Taylor Swift concert movie comes out. Let's just say that. All right, it'll come out before then. And then my summer recap, my 3-parter summer recap, that won't be till like late September. So stay tuned for all those videos. But if you want to watch any of the past recap videos I made on the channel, you can go right ahead. And yeah, that's it. That's all. I am out. Goodbye.